Welcome to the Virginia Tech Intramural Sports 5v5 basketball preseason presentation. This video will contain important policies and procedures that, as a captain, you should be ready to share with your teammates. Before we get started, we would like to thank our presenting sponsor, Foxridge Apartment Homes, for all they do for the VTIM sports program. All 5v5 basketball games are played in War Memorial Hall. Practice equipment will be available to check out at the courts with your Hokie passport. Additionally, a game ball will be provided by VTIMs, but teams may choose to use their own ball, as long as both captains agree. Players cannot compete with jewelry on. The only exception is for medical alert bracelets and necklaces, which must first be shown to a supervisor and then secured with tape. Any religious jewelry must be pre-approved in the Intramural Sports Office prior to game participation. Teams must have numbered light-colored and dark-colored jerseys for each game. A team without enough jerseys for all players will forfeit the game. Remember that Intramural staff will not provide jerseys to participants. Jerseys must be a similar shade of color across an entire team so each team clearly contrasts. In situations where teams show up in similar colors, it will be up to the captains to determine who will wear which color. If teams cannot reach an agreement, both teams will forfeit the game. For administrative purposes, in 5v5 basketball, all player jerseys must have numbers. Numbers can be 1 or 2-digit whole numbers and must be unique for each team member. They should be clearly visible from at least 10 yards away. Remember that taping jersey numbers is not allowed. For 5v5 basketball, a team needs a minimum of 4 players to start a game. To check into a game, players must have purchased a full Intramural Sports membership and have their Hokie passport with them. We're also asking teams to show up early to their games to help keep games on schedule throughout the night. If a team does not have enough players to start the game at the scheduled game time, the game clock will start running and a 10-minute grace period will be given to find additional players. After the 10-minute grace period ends, a team without the required number will forfeit the game. If neither team has enough players, it will be a double forfeit. If teams get enough players before the 10-minute grace period is over, the game will be started immediately. However, if one team had enough players at the scheduled game time, that team will have the option to start the game with a 0-0 score or a head by the mercy rule score. Teams that forfeit must pay a $20 reinstatement fee online. For games that were forfeited during the week, Monday through Thursday, this fee must be paid by 9 a.m. Friday of that week. The fee for games forfeited on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, is due by 9 a.m. the following Tuesday. Failure to pay this fee in a timely manner will result in the removal of the team from the league. Remember, always show up for games unless you are contacted directly by the Intramural office. There is no game limit to add players to your team roster. Players may be added throughout the entire season and can be added to your roster either through Fusion IM prior to the game or when they check in for a game with their Hokie passport. A player can participate on only one single-sex team during this season. Players are locked on a roster 3 weeks after the season begins. For all competitive divisions, this coincides with the start of the playoff tournament. Keep in mind that we do have roster restrictions for 5v5 basketball for both varsity and club athletes. Details about roster restrictions are outlined in the information sheet for 5v5 basketball. Varsity basketball athletes may not play intramural basketball, and a maximum of 3 non-basketball varsity athletes may play on one team. Additionally, there is a maximum of 3 basketball club players allowed per team. All former and current professional athletes are ineligible to play intramurals. If you believe a team has an ineligible player, you may file a protest with a supervisor on site. As a captain, you are allowed to protest player eligibility and rule misapplications. Eligibility protests may be made at any point during the game. A rule protest, however, must be made prior to the restart of play. In order to submit a formal protest, please find a supervisor on site and they will administer the situation. Following each contest, the intramural staff will rate the sportsmanship for each team. All teams that finish the regular season with a 3.0 average are eligible for the playoffs. All teams must maintain a 3.0 in the playoffs in order to advance. A team that displays poor sportsmanship is subject to removal from the league, and a player that displays poor sportsmanship is subject to ejection and suspension. Please remember that it is a privilege to play intramurals, so play hard, play fair, and respect the game. As the name would suggest, 5v5 basketball is played between two teams of 5 players. A team must have at least 4 players to begin a game. The game consists of two 20-minute halves with a running clock for all except the last 30 seconds of the first half and the last 2 minutes of the second half. Here the clock will stop on all whistles. Each team has one 30-second timeout per half. If one team is ahead by 19 or more points with 2 minutes or less left in the game will be declared over. During regular season, games can end in a tie. However, during playoffs, all games will be played until there is a winner. All overtime rules can be found online. Each game will begin with a jump ball in the center circle. This establishes the alternating possession arrow, which will be used for the remainder of the game. Substitutions may only be made during dead ball periods for violations and fouls. If free throws are awarded for a shooting foul, substitutes will be allowed to enter prior to the last free throw. Most importantly, please have substitutes wait at the table until the referee beckons them onto the court. All common and personal fouls count toward the team foul count. All shooting fouls will result in free throws. 1 free throw is awarded on a made basket, and either 2 or 3 free throws are awarded for a missed basket, depending on where the shot was taken from. Prior to the 7th team foul, all other fouls will result in a throw-in for the offended team at the spot out of bounds closest to where the foul occurred. On and after the 7th team foul, all fouls except team control and player control fouls will result in a 1-and-1 bonus for the offended player. As a reminder, there is no double bonus in this league. During a free throw, the shooter has 10 seconds to release the ball once it has been given to them by the referee. The 6 players in the lane may leave their lane space when the shot is released. The shooter and all other players behind the 3-point line must wait until the ball touches the rim. The spots below the block are to remain unoccupied. The 2 spots above the block must be occupied by defensive players. Priority for the middle lane space is given to offensive players, and the top lane space, nearest the free throw shooter, can be occupied by any player, but priority is given to the defense. If a technical, intentional, or flagrant foul occurs during the game, the offended team is awarded an automatic 2 points and possession of the ball. These fouls count toward personal foul counts. If a player receives 2 technical fouls in one game, they will be ejected. Flagrant fouls also result in player ejection. For technical fouls, the ball is inbounded at half court. For intentional and flagrant fouls, the throw-in will be out of bounds at the spot nearest to where the foul occurred. Technical fouls may be assessed for unsportsmanlike behavior, dunking during warm-ups, halftime, or after the game, continued delay of game, or wearing jewelry. All game status decisions will be made by 4 p.m. daily. After 4 p.m., game status is determined by intramural staff on site. To see the most current game status, follow us on Twitter or Facebook. If you have any questions that were not covered in this video, or any that come up throughout the season, please feel free to check out our policy page online, email us at imsports@vt.edu, call us, or stop by our office in War Memorial Hall. Good luck, have a great season, and thank you for helping make Virginia Tech Intramural Sports one of the finest programs in the nation.